Hey, always replay the moment without the music, which is why it looks worse on a phone than it felt in the room. In the clip doing laps around TikTok, the light is cool and flattering, the crystal behind them throws back 1,000 small constellations, and the camera finds the First Lady's profile just as the Queen turns to say something. Melania doesn't turn. Her gaze is anchored a beat to the left, her mouth moving in a sentence that clearly belongs to another conversation. By the time the Queen's lips finish their line, the caption has already written itself, ignored. It's a simple verdict and therefore irresistible. In a hall that rewards nuance, the internet prefers a gavel. But the room did not read it that way. St. George's Hall is built to make everything look slower and grander than it is. What seems like a long, deliberate snub is often a single second stretched by mirrors. The seating at a state banquet is geometry with feelings, rank and reciprocity braided into place settings, and conversation flows along that math. You talk across, you talk to your left, you talk to your right, and you do not raise your voice past the measured hum designed to let a toast enter the air without having to fight for it. Watch closely and you see the choreography, a glance to William, who has just said something private and dry enough to pull a smile, Milan's answering, hand resting lightly on the table edge to signal that she is still within the circle, the Queen reading the timing and letting the line pass. A second later, the triangle resets. With sound, it is polite overlap. Without sound, it becomes a crime scene. Etiquette, for all its reputation as fussy furniture, is a timing art. The rule is not always answer the sovereign first, the rule is do not make the sovereign work. That means keeping the current of talk smooth, not spiky. It means finishing a clause before you swivel so no one is left holding a sentence midair. It means noticing the way the orchestra shifts its weight before a toast so you aren't the person laughing when the room needs to rise. Melania has done this circuit before. She knows that attention is a liquid in these rooms. It pours toward you, then away. You share it, or you drown in it. The clip chooses the half second when the liquid is moving and freezes it like guilt. The dress did not help the narrative. Canary yellow under castle light is a bold decision even when sleeves are long, and hers were not. Off the shoulder reads as sculpture. It also reads, to some eyes, as insubordinate to the code of the night. That code, white tie and decorations, does not specifically outlaw bare shoulders. It does, however, belong to a culture where royal women usually choose to cover. Comparisons were inevitable. Catherine walked in wearing a gold lace evening coat that photographed like a footnote to centuries of British craft, the kind that fences off the body with art. Camilla's royal blue, armored with diamonds and sapphires, is the blueprint, formal to the bone, glittering but contained. Against that backdrop, the First Lady's clean line and exposed clavicle pulled the eye with a frankness the internet loves to indict. People who missed the wind on the lawn earlier, hats trying to leave heads, etiquette catching hats without blinking, convinced themselves that skin was a manifesto. Fashion has always been a language in these rooms, it is just not always the one outsiders are listening for. Yellow, in this register, is not just brightness, it is visibility made gracious. It photographs warm against a banquet's gilded temperature, it throws light back at faces you're speaking to, it makes the wearer legible from across a table the length of a village street. The off-shoulder line, read charitably, signals modernity in a house that can afford it, read uncharitably, it reads as indifference to tradition. The truth is almost never in the cut, it's in the conduct. You can wear sleeves and be ungracious. You can show a shoulder and measure every beat perfectly. The camera cannot grade intention, only angles, which is why angles win online. Then there is the old problem of royal rooms, they encourage a kind of visual ventriloquism. You see lips move and decide what they said. You watch an expression and translate it according to what you want to be true. The captions wrote themselves not because the behavior was outrageous, but because the story had already been socialized. The rude American, the snubbed queen, the secret mission allegedly assigned to Catherine elsewhere that day. All of it collapses toward a single frame because a single frame is easy to hold in your hand. What refuses to collapse is the atmosphere, the 1,000 soft negotiations that keep the evening from feeling like ritual for its own sake. You cannot see the way Camilla reads the room like a stage manager, keeping the tempo safe for toasts. You cannot hear the tiny cue the table gives when a course lands behind your back and you move aside without looking. You only see shoulders and decide they are opinions. There is also the question of the belt, pink or purple, which managed to recruit more commentary than some speeches earn. That is the other truth about banquet nights. Tiny, unserious details give people permission to approach the image without pretending to be experts. A belt that refuses to choose a color becomes a Rorschach test. So does a dress. So does a 2-second clip. People project, the clip receives. Meanwhile, the actual work of the evening continues on a frequency that doesn't trend, a compliment accepted without turning into flirtation, an anecdote deployed to keep a difficult guest amused, a line about conservation positioned next to a course everyone can agree on, a private kindness given to a staffer with nerves as loud as the trumpets. Those are the rooms inside the room. They never go viral, because they do not embarrass. If you slow the night to human speed, the ignore moment dissolves into the kind of overlap that happens at any long table where everyone is trying to be generous at once. Camilla reaches with a line, Melania is mid-sentence with William, there is eye contact a beat later, the necessary recalibration, the gentle re-entry of one conversation into another. No one is left with a word dying in their mouth. The band does not stumble. The toast lands. That is the metric insiders use. Did the rhythm hold? If it did, the protocol was honored, even if TikTok thinks it wasn't. It is worth remembering that courtesy is not servility, it is consideration paced correctly. The Queen has spent a lifetime making rooms feel easier than they would be without her. She will not mark down a guest for a half-second that keeps another thread from snapping. The First Lady, who has survived cameras that volunteered her into caricature for years, knows the value of looking where you are listening. Sometimes rude is a synonym for busy doing two polite things at once. Sometimes it really is rude. This was not that. And what of the idea that Catherine had a secret mission in the margins of the day? It flatters everyone to think statecraft needs code names to function. The reality is more ordinary and more impressive. She does the visible work beautifully and the invisible work faithfully, steadying nerves, absorbing heat, diverting attention when it threatens to pool in the wrong corner. On nights like these, her poise is the room's thermostat. If there had been a real snub, you'd have seen the temperature change. You didn't. The smile stayed, the conversation flowed, the photos aged well before they were taken. By the time the cameras retreated and the silver went back to its velvet drawers, the evening had done what it was built to do: turn a volatile week into a sequence of controlled images, handshakes that last exactly as long as they should, toasts that say everything while committing to almost nothing, dresses that tell a story about a country's talents without needing a paragraph. The viral clip will keep playing for a few days, accruing judgments from people who weren't there and wouldn't have heard the line even if they had been. Then it will join the archive of almosts, almost a scandal, almost a lesson, almost proof of something that was never in the room. What will remain is the harder, softer truth. In a hall where every glass knows its mark down to the millimeter, a human second slipped and then fitted itself back into the groove. The Queen said her line, the First Lady finished hers and returned, the heir poured oil on the gears with a practiced aside, the Princess kept the weather even. In the syntax of palace nights, that is fluency, not rudeness. The angle told one story. The evening told another. Believe the one that held the rhythm.